Welcome to Voice Lessons, a podcast of the Father Factory, where we dive deep into the principles of fatherhood, faith, and personal growth. Whether you're a dad, mentor, or someone striving to leave a lasting legacy, this is the place for a real conversation that challenges, equips, and inspires. I'm your host, Hassan, and today we have a special guest.
Yedidah Spann, also named Faith, is a mom to a beautiful daughter, motivational speaker, published author, life coach, consultant, and pastoral care provider. She is owner of Message to the Wounded Music, BMI, where she serves as publisher and writer and founder of FaithWorks Empowered. Yedidah, a creative CO, is a published author of her first of many books entitled Don't Give Up, Acknowledging the Struggle, Celebrating Resilience, and Not Forsaken. She enjoys compelling men and women to unapologetically own their story while using faith to pursue their dreams and purpose.
We are really excited about having this guest today because this is a really good friend, a person that I've known for many years, have heard her story, have seen her work. I've worked with her doing this amazing work that she is doing that she's going to talk to us about. This is probably one of those people that I would recommend that you check out everything that she's doing, everything that she's kind of talking about, because not only does she talk about it, she walks about it. Can I say it that way? But Yedidah Spann, welcome to the Father Factory. We are so excited to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Hassan, and everyone. I'm excited to be here. I really, really am. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. And yes, we worked together. Amazing time together at the corporation we worked at. And most of all, I am glad to be here to talk about this topic.
All right, great. So, Yedidah, let's start off with you just telling us about your book. So you wrote a book called Don't Give Up. And tell us like the year. What year did you write this book?
That was 2018.
So beautiful. 2018, before the pandemic and everything, right? And so tell us about the book, get us up to date with it, and then we'll dive into some questions around that.
Yeah, thanks so much, Hassan. So in 2018, I was strongly encouraged, and I will definitely say by Holy Spirit, to share my story. But the way that I was instructed to share it was in a way what I like to call friction. It's fiction and reality. And to be able to inspire, to give people hope, to talk to them about the things that I went through. And I said through, not what I was in, even from childbirth, but to make it into these short stories so that it would be an easy read and to start to share the reality of what it feels like for people to go through experiences. Some of them definitely that hurt, but not just that, not just to talk about the hurtful part, but to speak about how God was with me through it all and to help other people to lean into God in the difficult moments.
Wow. So what I know about you is that while this topic is, or the title of the book is Don't Give Up, people might think, oh yeah, just don't give up. But like, it's some really profound things that you talk about around this. But can you start off with telling us a little bit about your story and like kind of share your journey of suffering and resilience?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to bring the subtitle also in because it says acknowledging the struggle, celebrating resilience. And that was also important because a lot of times when we're going through a situation, it's difficult to acknowledge the struggle. Sometimes we want to wait until we get to the other side of it before we're able to say yay, or be able to celebrate. But what I discovered was that I had to have moments where I saw the hand of God, the grace of God, as he was taking me through things as a child. I told my story on Unfiltered Stories on YouTube and on Facebook. And I started off from the beginning. And the beginning actually started before I was born. Some people, horror movie people, if that's you, I am not with the horror movies. Son, I doubt that you are too. But before I was born, my mom went to see a movie the day before called Rosemary's Baby. I have never seen the movie, but I saw a trailer when I was much older, and I said, oh my gosh, why would she go see something like that, right? And then we just went through some things where going into, what is it, foster care. And that happened because the day I was born, regrettably, my mom she just zoned out. And so there's a scripture in Ezekiel says that there was no one to swaddle you or to hold you and all of that. And so I ended up there and experienced some things that I was like, what in the world, right, as a little girl. And really, actually, from being an infant into that space. But when we came out, when mom came to get us, there was a gentleman there who I assumed was dad. And he was abusive and took advantage. So he abused my brother one way, but he abused me a different way. And it looked like, and I thought that I was daddy's little girl. But in all truth and actuality, I was not. It was this thing about the vulnerability of a child who I looked at him as dad, and he would take me, oh, let's go get, milkshakes and all this stuff. I'm just this little person. And, then it turned into, coming and waking me up at night. Or it turned into, here's a comic book. Let me show you this comic book. And it was not. It was a pornographic magazine. And so I was very confused at that time. Probably 3-4 years old. Did not make sense. And then it just continued to carry on. And there are sections of this in the book, and then also being in relationships when I got older, where, dads are important. That's why I'm so excited about the father factor. I'm very serious. And I know you personally about how you are very present in your son's lives. And that's not something that I ever had. And so for me, I wasn't taught about, very naive, I think I want to put it, and I'm just going to put it that way, when it came to street smarts. It was a thing where someone told me something, I believed them, especially if they went to church. It was like, it's got to be true. They're not going to lie to me and all of this stuff. And I would be, Hassan, when I say all in, I mean all in. Anything that I did was all in. So if someone presented love to me, my heart to them and my affection was all in. And it wasn't just that. It was also, being as a woman, being given like different gifts of strategy and wisdom. I always wanted to help that man to succeed, not realizing at times that he was just there for money or whatever else it was. And so,
let me jump in, Yedidah. I think one, could you project a little more for us so we can hear really clearly, because what you're saying is so powerful. And I'm just thinking about a number of really powerful things you did and mentioned in terms of your trauma happening prior to birth, right? Your birth, right? And that's not abnormal, right? We see that in the life of Yeshua, right? So we see that there's a whole, there's a big issue around this, that this coming of this king is going to come. Children are massacred and killed, right? Just looking for him and trying to take him out. So we see this story before this story, but it also makes me think of a bit of the work that we do at the Father Factory, and and you do this work as well when you are meeting with different people on this subject, that you're thinking about this generational trauma that comes up, right? This thing that how it's passed down to generations. And so that really stood out for me as you were saying that. And then I want to kind of jump a little ahead of what you had mentioned of maybe the idea of being naive, but I'm thinking you're doing a God-given thing, right? You're being the woman that wants to support your man, and being a woman that wants to be the godly woman to do your piece of raising the children and going out into this world and working together as couples. And I wanted to say that to you because, and I know you know this well, But many times survivors are kind of blaming themselves in some ways to say, like, this is it was kind of my fault because I should have known this and I should have known that. And we talked about this, right? So like really well of the progression of a person's story, and and I'm hearing your progression. I'm hearing, like, at one time you would view this to be, I was naive, I wasn't street smart, and then I'm sure where you're going to take us is to show that these things weren't that. So I wanted the audience to hear that and really understand that as you're saying that to us. So thank you for this. We thank you even for sharing your story, but please continue.
Yeah. So, I continued on. And because I want to say this, because I did not receive the counseling, right, or anything like that as a young child, not because my mom didn't want to do it, but because we were kind of instructed to leave it alone. Don't go to take it, don't go to court with it. The woman was like, no, they're really going to get after her. She just, she's a little girl. The lawyers are not going to really care anything about that. It's going to be her word against his, even though she is a child. And so because of that, we dropped it. And I guess that we learn sometimes just to take things and kind of tuck them in the back somewhere. But just because it's back there doesn't mean that it's gone. It still needs to be addressed. And so I kind of tucked it, but I noticed that there were things that would happen. Like, when I came to the Lord, when he called me, I'll put it that way. And a gentleman, one of my friends would be, hey, Yedidah, and put their hand on my fist, would actually ball up. It was an automatic response to someone of the opposite sex touching me on my arm, even in a friendly way. And I started to kind of question that, like, why is that happening? I'm born again. I love the Lord. I spend hours in prayer. Why is this happening to me? But it was because there was something that needed to be addressed. And we know that about Yeshua, right? He meets us where we are, but he doesn't leave us there. But he still wants us he would say, wilt thou be made whole? It's like, well, of course, I want to be made whole. I don't like this, but he would ask the question. And so there were some things that I needed to do also in the process and in the journey of healing. And something else.
Beautiful. Yeah. We're going to get into all of that as well, because, and I think that point is so powerful, because you can be disarmed by false doctrine that teaches you to just deal with it, right? To just deal with it, and one day things will turn around, and maybe, right? And that you really don't have any role in working through and working to a place of wholeness. And so thank you again for sharing that piece of that with us. So when we look at your book, we look at chapter 4 particularly. Is chapter 4 the chapter that's titled Duped?
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3 is Duped, all right, and we're going to get to that. But chapter 4 talks about the butterfly. And so what I'd like to do is have you talk about how the transformation of a butterfly symbolizes suffering, growth, and new life. And really, like, this idea, like what lessons can we draw from this imagery about our journey through pain?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to say this. Chapter 4 is a favorite of so many people, male and female alike. And the way that it was written is that I was having a conversation with a butterfly, actually an interview. And the butterfly starts to talk to me about the process of being the caterpillar. Now, nobody, not most people, unless they like insects, celebrates the caterpillar. They really don't. It's a thing where I remember when we were younger, and this is in the book too, people would take a stick and see the caterpillar going somewhere and pick it up and look at it, ew, and say, it was gross, it's so ugly, it's yucky, right? And so in that moment of our lives when we too can equate that to the caterpillar, it's the yucky moment. It's not the beautiful moment, right? It's not the moment where we're celebrated sometimes. Yes, it's that moment when we're going through that child sexual abuse trauma, or it's the moment where the divorce happens, or the moment where the person goes through being duped, kind of whatever it is. And so it's going there and it finally says, I'm not ugly, I'm not yucky, I was made this way by my maker, right? And so it continues on trying to get to where it's going, and it finally gets to that chrysalis part. Here's the thing about the chrysalis that we can equate to our own lives. It starts to wrap itself up inside of this chrysalis, and finally when it's done doing that, it says, whew, thank goodness nobody can get in. But after being in that space for a moment, that space of isolation, which is what we do sometimes when we feel like the world has been unkind, is we shut everybody out and we close the blinds because we sometimes don't want to see the sunlight. And we don't even really want people to see that we are broken on the inside. So our chrysalis might look like a mask. Hey, everything is fine. Oh yeah, how you doing? I'm blessed and highly favored. I'm blessed, right? And so we do that. But the moment that that person gets back inside, the door closes and they feel so alone and broken. The caterpillar realizes this. It says, no one can get in, but neither can I get out. And there's this realization that happens that it is alone. But while it's in there, it starts to hear this voice, the voice of who I say the maker in the book. And the maker, of course, is God, because he is the one who made us. And now the caterpillar is starting to go through this metamorphosis. We know about a caterpillar as it goes through that, it's starting to become broken down. It's like broken down matter, and it's like it's falling apart to become nothing. But it doesn't realize that it's falling apart to become nothing so that it can be born again, built again into something new. God is so magnificent the way he does this. And so it's hearing in the book, live son, live daughter, inside of this book. And it goes through that, and then it starts to realize that the space that it is in after it has gone through that difficulty can no longer contain it, cannot contain it. And so it starts to, like try to move around, but there's something different that happened after and there's a way that I put it in the book that I love it, but it's like after it went through that, it's no longer the same, and it feels this thing and something, it's an instinct that's saying, listen, in order for you to get out of here, you are going to have to do something different. You are going to have to push. Yes, the maker says live, but we have a responsibility too. And it's got these fragile wings, and it's like, what is this? I don't even know what this is. And so it starts to push, and get out of there until it starts to fly. And the very same people who once looked at it and was like, ew, are like, oh, look at that beautiful butterfly. Yeah. It not only changed, its name was changed. It went from caterpillar to butterfly. Not just the way that when you go through, it's not just your mindset. It's a whole thing that the Lord does as we submit and surrender to him. That's how you become new in the Lord. But we have to let go of the old in order to grab hold of the new.
So I'm hearing some really powerful stuff that you said, and I'm like taking notes and writing stuff down, so I won't forget what I'm going to say. And I'm thinking like this idea of some prolonged, that it can be a self-imposed prison.
Come on.
Right?
That's good.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just taking what you said, right? Right. So it can be this self-imposed prison, and this idea of I love that you say like no one can get in, but I can't get out either, right? And so and then you went on to say that there was this time that just instinctively that I need to get out. This needs to end, and we need to go on, which made me think of how necessary that moment is. Man's Search for Meaning, the book Man's Search for Meaning with Viktor Frankl, he says this quote. He says, an abnormal response to an abnormal situation is normal.
That's good.
Right. And so you think of the necessary times or the way in which God allows us to experience depression. Right. We need it at that moment. At that moment, it's to center us, to recollect, and get us together. But it's never meant to live there. It's
No,
never meant to live out there, right?
no.
I'm especially excited about how how the Holy Spirit used you to bring out this truth, right? Because it's metaphoric, but as at the same time, it's real life and it's real situations, right? So there's like all of this stuff that's happening biologically to
Mhm.
us. That's being told in this really great narrative, this really great storytelling piece of it.
Yes.
So I really think you're really gifted with bringing that story and many more that people will find in your book to talk about this transition and going through things in terms of stress, and not just stress but struggling,
Yeah.
um, and coming out on the other side.
Yeah. Yes.
Beautiful. So, all right, we got a whole lot to go to, right? So, because so much is coming up for me as I'm thinking about, uh, like, we go through different things, and it's never a generation that doesn't experience suffering, right?
Yes.
So, we go through the suffering, we're
Mhm.
experiencing this. And I don't want to bypass chapter 3 in terms of being duped, right? Because we can definitely talk about that, and maybe you can thread that in as we go
Yes.
through more of the idea of it. But what I like to think about at this point is the fact that victimhood becomes this big thing, right? So, so what does victimhood afford an individual, and how does it shape your mindset and your actions? And ideally, what I'm looking at is talking beyond avoiding. So we know that victimhood
Mhm.
avoids accountability, right? So
Mhm.
long term, like just this idea of that I'm a victim, I've been through this,
Mhm.
you can kind of live in that space, right? So
Right.
it kind of can avoid accountability. But what other benefits or illusions does victimhood provide?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that question. So I wanted to share victim, the
Yeah,
definition, because I realize a lot of times that we are saying, oh, I'm a this, I'm that, but we are not really fully understanding what that means. It's something that we heard. So, victim, one that is injured, destroyed, or sacrificed under
mm,
any of various conditions, okay?
hmm,
One
hmm,
that is subjected to oppression, hardship, or mistreatment, one
yeah,
that is tricked or duped, a living being sacrificed to a deity or in the performance of a religious rite.
mm,
What's interesting about that is because I know that we're going to start to talk about that,
yeah,
how that mindset, and I am not taking away from the fact, now you heard my story and there's so much more to it, that
yeah,
it's not painful when we
mm,
go through these things. You said it yourself. Sometimes we are led into this place of lament, to this
mhm,
place where it feels like depression or whatever it is, but it's not to stay there.
yeah,
But victimhood, or being a victim, sometimes definitely comes into play when we are continuously looking more so at, oh my gosh, that happened to me, and
wow,
oh, there's nothing I can do about it. Oh, what they did. Oh,
mm,
right. And so it's constantly staying. And I like to say this, focusing so much on the one who left that we forget to let the one who lived start to live, the one who
mm,
stayed, right? And so that is us. And victimhood, once again, it's a mindset. There are some people, let's say it's a woman who the husband or what have you was the financial breadwinner. And so maybe he said to her, maybe it was financial control or whatever it was. I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to work. I don't want you. I want you. And then when he decides to leave, sometimes she's in this space where she's like, I don't know what to do.
mm,
Think about the widow in Second Kings. Her husband is no longer with her, and she has to make a choice. Either she stays there and let the creditors come and take her sons, or she decides that she's going to get up and go to somebody and get some help. So she goes to Elisha, right? And she had a choice when he said to her, listen, you got some oil, go borrow some vessels, go do this. She had a choice to say, but I don't know how to do that. Google is not God, but there are a whole lot of things on Google that we can look at.
Yeah.
Victimhood keeps a person, once again, in that self contained chrysalis, constantly believing a lie that tries to be bigger than God, saying that there's no hope, that there's
Mm.
nothing that they can do, that they just have to settle. And I'm not saying that sometimes you don't have to fight through things now. I take it from me. You gotta fight through some things, but it's making the choice to say that I am not going to accept this as my final being or whatever it is in this life.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
I love it. Yeah, yeah. So when as you're talking, it makes me think about like this cycle of being stuck in that. There's some science around, and they've measured it down to about 90 seconds. So 90 seconds of the emotion of anger, you are only angry 90 seconds of at any time. Right. So if anger and you're furious, you say people say I see red and I'm from 0 to 100. You're 0 to 100 in 90 seconds. If you let the 90 seconds pass, breathe, shift your thinking around that,
Yeah.
then it's a whole different situation. But so people say, what are you talking about? I'll be mad for days. I'm mad for that. But what you did is you put it on a loop. Right, you did what exactly what you were just saying. Yeah, you getting that hourglass out there? I saw it back there. Right, so it's that, right? It's like, oh, I'm gonna start this all over again, right? And I'm gonna replay it, and replay it. And now we're not saying that that when a person is victimized, just forget it and let it and just later for it, right? But we're saying that in that moment, what the way that you intensify that is that you dwell on it to the extent that you will not release it, right?
Yeah.
So it's different of dwelling on it because I'm writing about this in my book. Is that it's different of dwelling on it where you're still processing it and you're still getting to the place of sorting out everything, because we need to label every box before we put it up, right? Because if we just put the box up, we don't know what's in it. We don't know how useful or not it is. And so we are going over something, either in counseling, either with talking with someone, is not the looping in the sense that you're going to live in that, but what you're doing is sorting it out. And you're getting it out and getting your story. So one of the things we do with the Father Factory is we say, liberate your narrative, right? And so
join me for part 2 of my conversation with Yedidah Spann.